Thank you so much, Deborah, and thank you to everyone who presented today. So we're going to move into some time for just general questions, a Q&A period. I see we already have some questions that have been asked in the question and answer feature. Feel free to continue putting your questions there. You can also put them in the chat box. You can see all of the representatives, their contact information is listed on this slide. Something that we always tell students is reach out to the representatives. They're here to help answer questions. They're here, they want to hear from you. Obviously do your research first and really get to know their university and the programs through their website. But if you have something specific that you're trying to figure out and you're not seeing it on the website, reach out to them. You can always reach out to us as well, and we'll help you with it as best we can. I see we have a question from Nadia about international baccalaureate programs, IB programs. I don't know if maybe Sarah wants to take that one. In general, Nadia, usually you're asking, I know there are some universities and colleges that have a percentage of vacancy for the IB students. Is this available in all the universities or colleges? I think what you might be referring to is usually if you get a certain score on some of your exams, colleges will count that as university credit. I'm not aware of universities offering specific vacancies to students. Sarah, is that something that you're familiar with?
Yeah, I would say I have the exact same answer as you. So
Okay.
We definitely take a look at IB scores, and that can help to determine credit that you would be awarded. So you wouldn't necessarily have to take maybe some of the classes that you're taking because of your IB credit. But in terms of saving seats specifically for IB students, I can't say I've had any experience with that at all.
Okay, yeah, so you still have to go through the same admissions process, Nadia, and fulfill all of the requirements. But the bonus of doing an IB program is one, usually it's kind of considered a more advanced level of classes. And so your academic profile, you know, depending on the grades you get, might be evaluated slightly differently. And also what I mentioned before about if you get a certain score, some universities will count that as a college credit, but that's something you need to check on the university's website. We have another question from Maria. How easy is it to apply to a scholarship as an international student, and what are the requirements? So these are going to vary quite a lot. Maybe I'll give a general answer, and then if any of the institutions want to chime in and talk a little bit more about their specific scholarship opportunities. So Maria, we actually have, I'm going to go ahead and share our website real quick, just so you can see where to find more information about scholarships in general. So if you go to educationusaspain.com, it'll bring you to this website. And then if you go to Estudios de Grado and Titulaciones de Grado, you can find more information about scholarships under step 2, how do I finance my studies? And there's this document that is very helpful. It talks about the different types of aid. And so generally there's merit-based aid and need-based aid. You can find more information about those in these sections of the document. Many universities will offer merit-based aid to international students, and we're talking about undergraduate programs right now. Although, as Deborah mentioned, there's funding for graduate programs as well. Merit-based aid is usually based on your academic profile, often based on your GPA or your nota media. Some universities will also offer need-based aid, which is based on your financial need, your economic situation. And then there's other things like sports scholarships. But because every college, every university is different, it's hard to say, you know, what the application process is. Some universities automatically consider you for merit scholarships when they're reviewing your application. There's some very competitive merit scholarships that have their own application, and sometimes they offer more money, and that's why they're more competitive, so you have to apply separately, and those would have different requirements. So it's really important that when you're doing your search for universities, you include, Sarah mentioned this a little bit, but you include costs, right? You include financing, and figure out every university has different policies. So what is going to be the best and most realistic fit for you based on the university price and their policies, or the college price and their policies. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in about their specific institution and funding related to that.
I would say from our standpoint is we have a college foundation office, which basically generates private donations from people all over the area. And we give away several $1 million worth of scholarships every year. So once you apply and get a student login, you'll be able to apply for all these scholarships that are just for our students at SBC. So but yes, there's a lot of scholarships that are outside of our college, and we advertise those as well. But we have a link And maybe I'll put that in the chat box, a link of all the scholarships that you can get. But the ones that are with us for our students, once you become a student, and you don't have to start class, you can start applying once you receive your credentials to log in.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else want to add anything? Frank brings up a good point of, figuring out if it's something you apply for before admission or if it's something that you do after you become a student. Sometimes universities offer both. Sarah, go ahead.
Look at 4 criteria. So we're going to see your academics, of course, but then from there we'll see your essay. We will also see kind of like your resume, right? So what are your activities? What's your passion? What are you doing outside, right? Do you do any service learning? Are you involved in music? Do you love sports? That kind of thing. And then we'll also consider need-based as well too. So those are going to be the 4 main criteria. And it is a separate application. So I think, right, and the hardest part about everything, trying to decide where you want to study is every university has their own process for everything. And so part of it is just asking, right, like, what is your process directly? And then we'll be able to give you the answer, and every university will have a different answer for most of the things. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for us at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire.
Right, and for graduate scholarships, for any type of scholarship, make sure you meet the deadline. It may be different than the application deadline. For some programs, you're just applying, and then admitted students are considered for the scholarships available from within the university. But if you're applying for a scholarship that's external to the university, you have to completely, follow their procedures and timeline.
Yes, deadlines and dates are very important in this whole process. Thank you, Deborah. It's a good reminder. We also, Education USA Spain is part of the Fulbright Commission here in Spain. Fulbright, one of those kind of external organizations that offer scholarships and funding beyond a university. So for graduate students interested in graduate studies, Fulbright is a good place to start looking. We have a lot more of that information on the website as well. For undergraduate studies, we often encourage students to really focus on the universities or the colleges that they're interested in, because that's where usually the largest amount of funding is going to come from. And then if you want to focus on external organizations afterwards to kind of bolster the money that you've gotten, great, but usually a good place to start is the school itself. We have a question from Nicole. Good morning, everyone. My question is about the TOEFL test. Do we need a minimum score? Another one of those things that very much depends on each university and each college. Some schools you'll find don't even request that you submit any sort of English accreditation, but most schools will request some sort of minimum. I see Frank is typing. I don't know, Frank, if you want to say the answer out loud as well.
Yes. So basically we do not require the TOEFL scores. We don't accept them. We've talked about allowing it, but I think from a standpoint of cost, so that costs students money, right? You have to pay to take this test, and the prices are different. So we actually have our own English test at our college here. So you will take that either from Spain or wherever you are if you want before you come, or you can take it when you arrive. But we are offering that remotely, so you can take it from home as long as you have a webcam and internet. You can take the English test, and we also have a placement test, which is like mathematics, science, and things like that. So depending on how you do there, and then you can take the English test. And if you need more classes for English, we have that available. If not, you can go right into the degree. So no TOEFL required to enter, and we will provide a free English test for you to see where you are.
I think that's one of the benefits of community colleges is that flexibility that Frank had been talking about before as well. So if maybe you don't meet the level that a university requires or even another community college requires, oftentimes community colleges have these kind of bridge programs that allow you to get up to the level necessary for university level study, for college level study, and then you can kind of move into the program that way. Some universities also offer those kinds of programs, so that's something to look out for as well. They're usually titled, ESL intensive or ESL immersion programs. And the idea is it's to support international students who want to start their undergraduate or potentially graduate degree, but don't have the level necessary. And so it's to kind of help you get there before your course of study starts.
Right. So for graduate study, there are a number of paths. You may take the TOEFL or the IELTS exam. You may complete an intensive English language program, as Amelia just mentioned, at the university or at another location. If you're coming to the US for intensive English, your I-20 will be issued for that educational purpose, and then it will be transferred where you are admitted for your graduate degree program. Perhaps your English was the language of instruction for a prior degree. If that's the case, then the TOEFL or IELTS may be waived.
And I don't know if any of the institutions today accept the Cambridge exams. Usually most American institutions do not. Usually they're asking for TOEFL, IELTS, or some institutions also accept Duolingo. But I know in Spain, a lot of our students do the Cambridge exam, and I haven't come across too many that accept it. So we usually encourage you to do TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, but that's the thing, as we've been saying, is check with the university. But usually we would encourage you to, once you have your list of schools that you're interested in, see what they all request, if they request anything, and then choose the one that they all have, right? That way you're not paying for multiple exams.
And I was just going to add quick, also sometimes you can use the SAT, the EBRW score as well. So if you're taking the SAT, a lot of universities will accept that as well too. And just for 4 years, we have sometimes what we call conditional admission, right? So if the only thing you don't have is English, but you're admissible to a program, we can admit you on the basis of you'll complete English first, and then you can join the program right away. So that's one thing also that's really helpful to keep in mind too.
That's a great point. Thank you, Sarah. So I just see variety of requirements, variety of programs, and different ways you can access higher education in the US. So lots of options. We have a question about 2+2 programs. If they are currently studying I see the person wrote higher degree. I'm not sure if you mean, I assume you mean an undergraduate, a grado in Spain. Can they do a 2+2 program? If you mean a master's degree or a PhD, write it in the chat just so we can make sure we're answering your question appropriately. But I'm going to pass that one to Frank as the 2+2 representative here.
2+2 expert, right? I'm not sure. I can take this question two ways. If the student's currently taking a master's degree in Spain and they want to come and do the 2+2, obviously that won't be a problem. But from a standpoint of it, yes. So you could do a 2+2+2 if you want to call it, I guess. You could do 2 years at a community college, transfer, say, to the University of South Florida, which is our neighboring university, and then do your bachelor's there, and then stay there for a master's, or transfer to another university you want, Catholic University or wherever, and transfer to them and do your master's if you don't want to stay at that university. So yes, you could do a 2+2 and then +2 if you want to go somewhere else. Up to you. So yes, so that is definitely an option. I'm not sure if they meant also if they currently have a master's. That's what I maybe looked at it that way. But we have lots of degrees to choose from. So another thing I want to kind of say is, which is not really about working, but you can do OPT, occupational practicum training, after your associate's degree. So you can do 2 years at our college, do 1 year of work in your field of study, transfer to a university, get your bachelor's degree, 4-year degree, do it again, work, go get your master's, do one year of work again. So you can do that after every major degree. It's kind of a nice thing. I think a lot of students don't realize that you can get an associate's and do OPT.
I'm going to ask a question because we get a lot of these kind of in this vein. If a student has already started their undergraduate studies in Spain, usually I think the rule is if it's about a year or so of undergraduate studies, then they're coming in as a transfer. Is that also kind of the rule at your institutions, both for community colleges, Frank, and Sarah, for undergraduate, 4-year undergraduate degrees?
So I think it's so situational. It depends what evaluations is. So I would say some credits will probably transfer. Which ones it's so difficult because every university is different. So it depends on the NACES evaluation, which is for students that want to know, it's a company or organization that oversees translations of diplomas and degrees and credits.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the same thing, but mostly yes. To answer your question, they would be considered a transfer student. And some universities do my university, for example, we do the evaluations in-house. So you just send your documents to us. You don't necessarily have to go through a third party. So every university, yeah, and college has their own ways. So
right. And then another thing to keep in
For
mind with that.
international students, for international students at the postgrado level, sometimes if you have a graduate degree from your country or elsewhere, it may be possible that up to 2 of those courses would transfer into your US graduate degree. And we also have students who start in our undergraduate degree programs and can take graduate degree and graduate courses while they are undergrads. And those courses count for dual credit if they stay on and finish the master's. So they could get 2 graduate courses in during their baccalaureate years. And that then lightens their load and frees up more time for research in their graduate program.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. So once again, lots of pathways, lots of different ways you can approach it. We have a question about the SAT. My son is having issues registering for the 4th of December exam. Is it possible to apply to university before having the SAT result yet? I'm going to pass this one to Sarah.
Yes, absolutely. So my university, for example, we don't require the SAT or ACT for international students. I know a lot of universities have waived it in lieu of COVID, and because we know people cannot get to the test, and they're being canceled all across the world. So I would say yes, definitely. If they have the list of universities they want to attend already, I would just email them to ask if it's waived this year. I know some people aren't budging, so yeah, everyone has their own way. But for us, it's not even required for international students.
Another thing to double check on, Marta, is if your son is trying to apply early for the November deadlines or for the January ones, regardless, most universities also offer some sort of leeway by about a couple weeks where you can send in your full, if they do require the SAT, you can send in all of the rest of the application materials, and then you have a time frame of a couple weeks to send in SAT results or whatever the university offers as far as that leeway. So just double check, because that might be an option as well. But in general, yes, you can apply. You just want to make sure you send them in a reasonable time frame that the university asks. I'm not seeing any other questions, and we're basically right on time here. Is it compulsory to take the SAT? Question came in right away. As Sarah just said, it is not for all universities. So it really depends on the school that you're going to. Colleges, community colleges, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually never require the SAT. And then some universities might still require it. I would encourage you to double check about the scholarships. Oftentimes universities that don't require it for admissions purposes still might require it for a very competitive merit scholarship. So that's something to think about. On our website, I'll wait and see if we have any other last minute questions, but just to show you real quick, on our website, under step 3, how do I apply? We have lots of information, and we have a document, this one, elements of the application, that goes more into depth about SAT and exam requirements. There's also a link in there with information about schools that don't require it, and you can look up those organizations or those schools as well through that specific organization in the document. And then just to kind of round out as well, like I said before, if you have any questions, you can always contact one of the Education USA advisors through this contacto, this formulario, and request some more information about something specific or request to meet with an advisor. And then also, of course, please reach out to our wonderful representatives that have presented here today. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you. That's why their emails are on the screen. And if there's any other information you might want to review from today's webinar, it's being recorded right now. It's going to be posted on our YouTube channel probably within about a week or so. So with that being said, I don't see any other questions that came in. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up and try and be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much to everyone, to our wonderful presenters today, Frank, Sarah, and Deborah, for your time, both put into the presentation and the time that you shared with us today answering questions. Thank you so much to all the students, and we hope to see you at another event in the future. Have a good rest of your evening.